Streaming live across the country, tackling the topics everyone is talking about online. Share, engage, and interact. This is Newsfeed Now.
Good morning, and thanks so much for joining us for Newsfeed Now on this terrific Tuesday. I can't say it enough. It's Tuesday. I'm Hillary Hunt, and over the next 15 minutes, we're going to take a look at the top trending stories this morning, which obviously include what's happening on Capitol Hill, how health officials across the country are ramping up those COVID-19 vaccinations, and what about the NBA possibly being put on hold this season, and a father's 4-year secret finally revealed. But let's start on Capitol Hill with the latest there. Following last week's violent riots at the Capitol, House Democrats formally introduced an article of impeachment against President Trump. Democratic lawmakers say the president encouraged the deadly attack on Wednesday. Raquel Martin tells us how soon we may see a vote on this. Take a listen.
The president deserves to be impeached.
Monday, House Democrats formally introduced an article of impeachment against President Trump.
There needs to be accountability.
Then you have to be strong.
They're charging the president with inciting an insurrection against the U.S. government, leading to last week's deadly attack at the U.S. Capitol.
It was an attempted coup d'etat.
Missouri Democratic Congressman Emanuel Cleaver is one of more than 200 Democrats backing the effort.
I was fearing for my life.
He fears the president could stoke more chaos if Congress does not act.
We don't know what he's going to do.
Every day he serves in office is a danger to our country.
But so far, few Republicans are on board.
I think it's a ridiculous discussion.
Republican Senator Roy Blunt says even if the House impeaches the president, there's not enough time for the Senate to act before Inauguration Day. And he believes President Trump will do no further harm.
The president's surrounded by people who are encouraging that this last few days of this administration really begin to focus on the positive things.
Democrats are urging Vice President Mike Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove the president. They say Pence has 24 hours to act before they do.
Sick in our nation's capital. Following the riots in Washington, D.C., more protests are happening in capital cities. Police arrested 2 people outside of the Washington state capitol. We're told the woman used an RV to block the road going to the State House. Later, a man tried to walk past security fences. And what about protests that gathered outside of the Iowa state capitol as well? And over in Oregon, a lawmaker allegedly let some protesters into the State House there. And the FBI warns that armed protesters may be in all 50 states across our nation leading up to inauguration. The Secret Service starts its special event security tomorrow. That's almost a week earlier than they actually had planned. The presidential swearing-in ceremony will happen outside of the U.S. Capitol as usual, like it always does. President Trump approved an emergency declaration for D.C. It is in effect from now until the 24th and opens up federal resources to help deal with any inauguration-related unrest. And speaking of inauguration, in 8 days, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will be sworn in as the president and vice president. But like we've been saying already, authorities are bracing for protests in our nation's capital on that big day. D.C. officials are asking for federal help to ensure nothing gets out of hand. Anna Warnicki has more on how lawmakers are prepping for the big day.
In just over a week, all eyes will be on Washington as Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are sworn in on the steps of the U.S. Capitol.
The 3 branches come together. You're outside, both from the ground and the air. There's a lot to worry about.
As the head of the congressional committee overseeing the inauguration, Missouri Republican Senator Roy Blunt says after Wednesday's deadly riot at the Capitol, security will be a lot tighter.
Frankly, the government's probably more vulnerable at that moment than almost any other moment.
D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser says she's asking for additional federal help
to protect the District of Columbia from a repeat of the violent insurrection experienced at the Capitol.
Mayor Bowser says she's requesting the coordination of all federal agencies to assist with the preparations, including daily intelligence and threat briefings from the FBI.
We'll do everything we could possibly do, as we do every 4 years, to ensure that nothing does go wrong.
Biden's inaugural committee says crowds are expected to be a lot smaller, with many of the events happening virtually, including a parade across America, highlighting the theme, America United. Maryland Democratic Senator Ben Cardin says he hopes Americans use the moment to come together.
It's going to be a historic moment, one our nation needs to celebrate.
President Trump said last week he will not be attending.
Let's bring in Anna Warnicki, who just did that story for us, joining us from our nation's capital. And Anna, like they said in this story, you know, this happens every 4 years, but obviously way more security is being requested after what happened last week.
That's absolutely right. Actually, Senator Blunt said that they're expecting only 3,000 people, which seems like a lot, but usually there's over 200,000 people that show up to the inauguration in the nation's capital. The city of D.C. is already cracking down. Typically, a lot of residents here will rent out their apartments for Airbnb, and they're saying, they're encouraging residents to not do that this year. They're just really trying to make it a very low-key event. Obviously, the Biden inaugural committee is really pushing for most of it to be virtual, but there will be a lot of high-profile people here. The three branches will be here. A lot of lawmakers will be in attendance. Former presidents will be in attendance. So, a lot of eyes will be on D.C. on January 20th.
Yeah, and I want you to just kind of review the heightened security, who's all coming in to help make sure that this is secure. Because like you said, normally you're expecting way more than 3,000, but even that 3,000, there is security and especially heightened security concerns.
Absolutely. And so it's basically an all hands on deck operation. We have the National Guard who will be here. We have, obviously DC police, Capitol Police, Maryland Police, Virginia Police. The FBI is working with this. One of the things that the DC mayor requested was that the FBI give these daily briefings every single day, intelligence briefings leading up to it. So they're really just trying to make sure that everyone's on the same page. That's one of the faults that happened last week, is that there was just a lot of moving parts, and it didn't seem like a lot of the law enforcement were on the same page. They're just kind of making sure that moving forward and moving ahead to January 20th, that everyone is on the same page and that they have a plan set in place for both federal and local law enforcement.
Yeah, a lot of planning going into this to make sure that everyone stays safe. Anna Warnicki out of Washington, D.C. for us. Thanks so much, and I'm sure we'll be checking in with you leading up to inauguration. And over in the East, we're talking about a Virginia business owner. She says she's facing death threats after a picture she shared on social media that tied to Wednesday's event at the Capitol, the U.S. Capitol building. Aisha Tolliver spoke with the woman and explains why there's been a huge misunderstanding.
Mary Jane Hamblin has owned and operated Amazing Glazed for 7 years. Hamblin says it's normally a place of happiness and community, but as of late, it's been anything but.
They've said that they'll burn down our building, that we are domestic terrorists.
She says one person even called her business saying they were coming to kill her. Hamblin says all of these threats were sparked by a Facebook post on Tuesday. She says her husband and his friends decided it would be a historical event to watch President Trump speak in D.C. this week.
I snapped a picture and I innocently put it on my private, which I thought was private, personal Facebook page, and it showed a picture of them, and the title just said, "Proud of these guys for traveling to D.C. to see our president."
She says it wasn't long before she was getting called to check her social media pages.
When I looked, I saw posts that took a picture of Amazing Glaze Facebook and my Facebook. They put it together side by side and said, I'll never spend another penny at this store. They supported what happened at the Capitol.
That post spread like wildfire, garnering thousands of shares on Facebook and Twitter. Hamblin says people also began bashing her donut shop on Google reviews. She says the viral post doesn't depict the actual story, as her husband and his friends were on the way home before chaos at the Capitol erupted. While she supports peaceful protests, she says she doesn't support violence or destruction of any kind.
I do not condone what happened at the Capitol at all.
Okay, let's talk about a big award. New England Patriots head football coach Bill Belichick will not accept the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Trump. Here's what Belichick cited. He said the riots in D.C., that's the reason for his decline. The president announced his intention to give the six-time Super Bowl winning coach that award over the weekend, but he is saying no thank you at this time. And let's talk about the coronavirus pandemic. The U.S. is entering its second month of the biggest vaccination drive in history, with a major expansion of that campaign, opening football stadiums, Major League Baseball parks, fairgrounds, even convention centers, to make a more diverse pool of people and make sure people can get vaccinated. Brian Eaton has that story.
Ready, set, go.
President-elect Joe Biden received the second dose of the coronavirus vaccine Monday, but for everyday Americans, it has been very difficult to get the shot. Appointments fill up fast, and the wait once at a vaccine site can be hours long.
As we walked in, it took about an hour and a half to 2 hours to get it, and it looks like now it's probably going to be at least 3 to 4 hours before you get the vaccine. So it's a long line, a long process.
Every state has a different plan and different rules about exactly who can get vaccinated and when. In Florida, teachers are still not on the priority list, but the elderly are. In New York, teachers will be allowed to start getting vaccinated this week. And in Texas, Governor Greg Abbott is focused on mega vaccine sites like this one that opened at Arlington Expo Center near Dallas, where he says they'll be able to vaccinate 2,000 people per day.
This structure that we now have created can be expanded and will be expanded very swiftly across the state.
The federal government has distributed more than 25 million doses of the vaccine, but just under 9 million of the shots have actually been given out, according to the CDC. That's only about 35%. The states administering the vaccines the fastest are West Virginia, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, and New Hampshire. The states the slowest at administering the vaccine are Georgia, Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi, and the U.S. territory of Puerto Rico. Many who have already been lucky enough to get the first dose say it is a relief.
It means that I can be with my family, that I can hug my grandchildren and they can hug me back, and just try to get life back to normal.
Here's the thing, it's not just humans contracting COVID-19. We're now learning that some gorillas at the San Diego Zoo have tested positive for the virus, and it's believed to be the first known transmission to apes. Here's what happened. The gorillas began coughing last week, so zoo vets tested their fecal samples for the virus. They then confirmed those positive results just yesterday. We're told 8 gorillas in total are believed to have the virus. Zoo officials think those gorillas got the virus from an asymptomatic staff member. And the NBA, the big ballers, they're going to have a big meeting today. Steve's going like this, but it's all to discuss concerns growing over the pandemic. Everyone was watching this because they decided to opt out of the bubble. They started in the bubble, now no bubble this season, but they're checking on those health and safety protocols that are already in place. Here's what happened. The NBA has postponed 3 games in just 24 hours, all because of COVID-19. Current guidelines have actually caused some teams to struggle to find enough players to play the game because you guys know they don't have a huge roster. But general managers are also expected to tighten their protocols even more. The NBA is considering putting the season on hold for a week or 2 because of how many positive cases they have. That meeting's today, and of course we'll continue to follow it for you. And in the Midwest, an Illinois family is celebrating not 1 but 2 graduations. One actually coming as a surprise. Michelle Rava shares the moment. A dad/college student was able to finally get his big secret off his chest. It's a good one.
It really was just like keeping the secret for Christmas. It was just 4.5 years.
After 4 long years, Mike Levin was able to finally get his secret off his chest. But first, he shares how it all began.
June 6th, 2016, I woke up in the middle of the night just with a feeling from God that I was going back to school. I was going to go get my degree, and I was going to do it as a surprise to my family.
It wasn't something that was in Levin's plans, but he certainly had a lot of motivation surrounding him.
And the time that we've done this, my son graduated with his degree, my daughter graduated, my wife graduated, she got her CFP, my son got married. There's been lots of life events that have happened along the way.
He enrolled into Grand Canyon University, the same school his daughter was attending, making the secret even harder to keep.
It was not easy to conceal, but it was easy to play off that I was just working on a spreadsheet for work, not some random calculation for a accounting class.
And after a family get-together to celebrate his daughter's graduation, he decided it would be perfect timing for the big reveal.
So I had my cap and gown there and my diploma, so I came walking out and I go, I guess this is probably why I have an alumni t-shirt. And the confusion was a lot of fun to watch.
I was like shocked. So when I saw the diploma, it took me a second and I was like, wait a second, that's his name. He's wearing a cap and gown. And then I just started like sobbing, just saying how proud I was of him.
Levin graduated with a 3.99 GPA and a bachelor's degree in finance and economics. He says it was all worth it.
Having all 4 of us have our 4-year degree, it's really a nice thing to share as a family.
I could not be more proud of him. and he knows that.
Lovin with almost a 4.0 there. Way to go. But before we go, hey, do you have a pet? Because listen to this. How about a taste of some good news? Maybe at least for your dog, or you can try it too if you're feeling wild. Ben & Jerry's announced it's releasing treats for your dogs, a little bit of doggy dessert. It's going to be sold in those 4-ounce cups you see right there. It looks pretty tasty. You can get pumpkin with cookies or peanut butter with pretzels, and they're made with a base of sunflower butter. They're $2.99 per cup or $4.99 for 4. So, you know, treat yourself, treat your dogs, especially treat your dogs because, you know, I love some pups. Thanks so much for joining us today. Make sure you join us tomorrow, Wednesday. We want to have a good one. I hope you have a terrific Tuesday. We'll have more top trending stories. Same time, same place. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.